deep vein thrombosis. What is that?
So, is that okay that they're loud? I can tell them that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, a deep vein thrombosis is essentially where the vein which brings blood back to the heart ends up with a clot inside of it. That clot can form for multiple reasons. Some people have clotting factors in which predispose them to developing blood clots. Some people have physical anatomical problems that predispose them, and sometimes trauma can cause it.
Okay. Wemby is 21. Is it usual to get clots in someone that young?
So usually not unless there's something anatomic or some genetic problem with his blood clotting issues. So it's not that it's not common, it's just when it happens, you have to go looking for something, some reason for it.
Okay, he's also active every day. He's an athlete. Is it common to get clots in athletes or someone who is that active and healthy?
So in athletes, particularly in someone like Wemby, or really in any kind of athlete, the young male athletic males typically can get them, particularly in the upper extremity like that. There's the way your muscles will form when they exercise. It can actually restrict or constrict the blood vessels, causing them to develop a blood clot. And then the other reason would be if they had some kind of congenital problem.
Okay, and Don told me that there is a big difference between athletes getting clots in their upper extremities and lower extremities. Can you kind of explain what that difference is?
Well, so initially, blood clot in any, whether it's your upper extremity or lower extremity, is significant, mostly because you always worry about that blood clot going to the lung, which can be a cardiovascular catastrophe potentially. So you always have to be wary about that. The lower extremities typically happen from trauma or some kind of compression in essence. In the upper extremity, it's usually because there is some anatomic issue that can cause this. If it's something that is happened over time, slowly, sometimes you'll be able to see where your upper body has developed basically a bypass around that blood clot, which they call collaterals, and you can pick up on it pretty quickly. But in someone like this, it sounds like it was just kind of an acute event.
Okay, and is there a better chance that upper extremities or lower extremities, either one, more likely to heal and be okay, or are they about the same?
So I think the process of being on the blood thinner, particularly for about 3 to 6 months, depending on what you think the cause is going to be the standard of care. And they will both heal, right? Depending on the severity of symptoms, sometimes we'll actually go in and either try to suck out the clot or give them special blood thinners through a catheter in order to dissolve it quicker. But for the most part, if the symptoms are mild, you can just be on blood thinners for a short amount of time.
Okay, but if you have, let's say, a blood clot in your upper extremities, are you more likely to heal, or do you have a better chance of fully recovering than, let's say, a blood clot in a lower extremity?
I think the chance of them healing is about the same. So in essence, for Mr. Wemby, it's going to be a pretty good chance that he's going to recover.
Okay, that's the next thing. I think people are panicking, right? Because blood clots have in the past ended athletes' careers. If it is a one-time thing, what are his chances of getting better and getting back on the court? What does that process look like?
So after the period of being on the blood thinners, they'll assess to make sure that everything is open the way it's supposed to. I think first and foremost, the most important thing is to figure out kind of why he developed it and to make sure that there's steps moving forward to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And then once he recovers, he should be back to full force.
Okay, and so it's looking good that he can get back on the court?
I think it looks great.
Okay, perfect. And then also, we want to make sure to explain the difference between a deep vein thrombosis and a pulmonary embolism, which are significantly different, but also caused by a blood clot?
Right. So a deep vein thrombosis basically is a clot that's formed somewhere in the veins of your body, right? When that clot travels, because it's on the lung side, will travel up and can go into your lungs. Now, if it's big enough, it can actually cause everything from just chest pain, shortness of breath, to sudden death. So you have to be very aware of that situation, and even if you have one, just kind of know your risk and your symptoms that you need to be looking out for, because it can be as little as just my heart feels like it's beating really fast to a big circulatory collapse.
Okay, but a deep vein thrombosis is nowhere near that, right?
It is nowhere near that.
Okay, so he's doing better.
He's doing okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so what are some of the side effects that blood clots bring? He was showing fatigue. Could that be one?
Yeah, so I think it depends more on, again, what the symptom is. If it's that this blood clot was decreasing the amount of blood flow going to his heart for whatever reason, making him not able to compete at the level or have his heart be as efficient at the level of which it should be, I could see how he could be a little bit fatigued from that. Some people actually have clotting disorders, hemophiliacs, thrombophiliacs, issues like that, which can make them more fatigued. Pretty sure we would have known that about him already. So I don't think that's the issue. But definitely this kind of symptom and the way he brought on could be one of the symptoms he was having for sure.
Okay, so if it is treatable, why are they taking him out for the rest of the season?
So I think part of it is that on the blood thinner, probably your biggest risk is that when you thin the blood is that you can bleed. And although I've never played NBA basketball, schoolyard basketball, you get bruised up pretty easily. I can only imagine that gets amplified with blood thinners on board.
So because he's going to be on blood thinners, it could be dangerous to have him playing and risking, a cut, a nosebleed.
Correct. A cut, nosebleed, a fall. He could, go for a dunk or go to block a dunk and he hits his head on the ground or on the rim or wherever, hits his head, period, and he could have a bleed in his head. So it's just best to let him recover, let him rest, and then just get him ready for next year.
Okay. Is there something I haven't asked or touched on that you think is important, or you want people to hear? People who are panicking because he's being pulled for the rest of the season.
No, I mean I think it's important to understand that this is just, especially in the upper extremity, it's rare. It's 1 to 2 in 100,000 people get this. A lot of times it's usually we know the reason for it. I think the most important thing is to make sure that if you do have something, to ask the question, why? Why do I have this so that it doesn't happen again? And luckily for him and for Wemby, he knows his body really well. So he knew something was not right, which is something that he didn't put it off. Had he put it off, it could have been very bad and amplified 10 times more, but he didn't. He actually was a good role model that when you don't feel good, you should go see the doctor to get it taken care of.